All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another Ask Us Anything with the Wolves of Alt Street. I am your host, Nexus, and today I am joined by 100 Days Ventures, which is a very interesting project. They have some very high APYs, they have some venture capital aspirations, and they talk about diversity in education a lot. So, naturally, they get my attention. As always, I would like to begin these presentations by saying that neither I nor any of the speakers are your financial advisors. You did not pay us for that. We are not licensed for that. And everything that you are going to hear is our personal opinion. Everything from this presentation should be construed as entertainment or informational content only. It does not represent the personal financial advice of myself, the team at the Wolves of Wall Street, or the speakers or the team from 100 Days. And with that said, welcome. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome. It's great to be here, man, and your energy is fantastic. Can't thank you enough.
Awesome, I appreciate that. Well, as always, I'd like to begin by just asking both of you if you would introduce yourselves and tell us anything you would like us to know to get to know you and your team.
You got it. I can give a quick intro, then Tommy can as well, and then we can give a quick overview of the project real quick if that sounds good.
Sure thing.
Awesome. So my name is Arsh. I am the CEO of 100 Days Ventures, and a bit about myself. I am currently a student at Princeton University studying financial engineering and neuroscience. My background is a lot in the neuroscience field. I'm the head of multiple boards in the Philadelphia area. A lot of kind of different things I've done there in terms of neuroclinical research. I've done a lot of papers that I've published and just a lot of financial literature papers and things of that nature. So really my specialization is kind of bringing that research knack in neuro and kind of bringing that over to the crypto world. For me, is I'm a very big researcher, and that neuro is very much in the space of the more you research in the field, the more you realize how little you know because of the progression of technology and the space in general. So kind of coming into crypto, that translates very well in the sense of it's also the aspect where the more you research, the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know about the space. So for me, it was a very animation in the sense of it's just there's an ever-ending knowledge that you can always continue to learn in the space. So that's really what excites me and kind of helped me, allow me to really dive in and keep going from there. But that's a bit about myself, and I'll hand it over to Tommy here.
Fantastic, Arsh. And I'm Tommy Stevenson. This is my 23rd year in business, owning and operating a software development agency in the Seattle, Los Angeles areas. And over the course of my career, I've been able to focus on building technologies for everybody for purposes of marketing and enterprise, anything kind of in between, and doing it for top companies like Microsoft, Mercedes, YouTube, etc. So I had the fortunate opportunity of working alongside these brands for fairly significant projects, I would say. The last, let's see, probably 6 or 7 years, we've been focused extensively on bringing blockchain to the enterprise. So focusing specifically on, how can organizations truly utilize the strengths of blockchain without getting, too mystified by its limitations, but also really maximizing its strengths. And through that course of developing track and trace platforms and global supply chain platforms, we started looking at the volume of transactions and what can happen from a DeFi perspective. And as a passion, most of our team has been in DeFi since, let's say DeFi 1.0. And so we went through the ups and downs and we learned our lessons. And in doing such, we also really fell fond of the fact that we know a lot of technology folks in the industry that are looking to come and adopt Web3. We ourselves are extremely passionate about the utilization of Web3. And so that was the form and the foundation for 100 Days.
Okay. That leads very nicely into my first question for you guys. Why the names 100 Days and the ticker ASTRO? There's a number of people right now, especially, who will be somewhat skeptical of any project trying to ride the moon meme to millionaire status, only for the whole thing to crater out.
Totally. So as far as the naming convention behind it, for us is 100 days is more in the sense of what that symbolizes in the real world. How 100 days in the job world is like, that's where your highest impact is in education, where your first 100 days kind of studying any new processy there is where you get the most impact and where you truly learn the most and you kind of grow the most with the space. So for us, is the sense of we think 100 days is a great reflection of the kind of the power of that. And that's really what we're trying to tap into with it. As far as the ticker symbol Astro, this is a fun little detail. I have a dog, a golden retriever. His name is Astro. So that kind of gave us the inspiration about it. Now we had other things that we enjoyed about it, but really that's where it originated from.
That begs the question, did you have your dog before or after Luna?
Way before. That's a good question.
All right. Well, in that case, diving a little bit off the surface and a little bit more into the weeds here, let's get into the meat of what I think a lot of people are going to want to hear about right away. Tokenomics. Your protocol documents suggest a maximum potential APY above 6 figures. From my perspective, that's hard for me to believe in a post-Ohm time Jade protocol world, if you'll pardon my skepticism. How does this rate of return become economically sustainable?
Sure. So for us is really kind of using this auto rebasing mechanism, this APY nature along with it, to really build a foundation of ourselves and to build kind of using the narration around it and kind of the gameplay aspects to it and really the game theory behind it and using those natures to really dive in and get exposure from it. But for us as this APY, we understand how we can make it more sustainable and how from a product side we're utility driven and bringing business into crypto and things like that to really focus on sustainability and add that nature to it. But you also understand that the APY figure that we're currently at, realistically in the long term, is not something where we can continue to do it. Because no matter how sustainable you are, no matter how much utility you have, to sustain that from a revenue standpoint is pretty astronomical. So for us, is really using this as a vehicle to get started there, to make a narration in the space, and to do everything we're saying on the revenue and utility side, but then to scale back the APY for sure. But currently it is a fixed rate.
Okay. Interesting. Well, obviously, when it comes to the core values of the project, I'm going to be a big fan of that, especially the ideas of education in the spaces of finance and technology. That's a big part of why I'm here right now, is because I have kind of a lot of diverse interests at that intersection. My question is, besides astronomical returns, what kind of benefits can token holders enjoy?
That was great, by the way. Maybe I'll jump in on this one. So, as we're talking about the foundation of the 100 Days Launchpad, our core objective was to not only bring the world of DeFi, something fun and engaging where we can use a thematic, not the moon aspect. Actually, that wasn't even a concept for us. It was more utilizing us as kind of that rocket that's going to take you to the next level. But what we're looking to do with the Launchpad component, if you look at how we've structured our organization, and even if you look at the token holders now, and if you take a look at us on Snowtrace, you'll notice that we've got a very, from a whale perspective, we've got a very sustainable infrastructure already as it pertains to token holders. Everybody came in at basically the same level in and of itself. And that makes it, a lot more manageable for us. We're not worried so much about, a stacked house that could fall at any time. And that allows us the opportunity to really look at the Launchpad concept and focus on what we're good at, which is taking traditional business, either concepts and or companies that are were at one time successful, but maybe, had a dead run and got their tires flattened. And so what we're looking to do is really utilize our network and our traditional business prowess, coupled with the rapid world of DeFi, to bring sustainable projects to the Launchpad. So that's a long-winded way of saying, our token holders now are the folks who are here with us from the beginning. And as we continue to deploy new projects, everyone will have a Web3 component, and our 100 Days community and all of our partner communities will be the first to know of all of this hot new alpha, but also these real projects that are coming to market. And we will be doing both DeFi and traditional type of businesses. And that's going to be the fun aspect, hopefully, that our community hasn't seen before in crypto.
Okay, so you're planning on where other projects would say limit their yield farming to just decentralized financial applications, for instance, you guys are looking to diversify into real world businesses too. That's the key
Correct.
difference.
You got it. And one of the things, and again, you mentioned one of the projects. I mean, we are heavily into a lot of DeFi projects ourselves as passion holders, and one of those projects that you named, that mentioned there, whether I don't think they did it planned by any means. It definitely came off that way, but we're talking about 5 months of like lack of activity. You've got some announcements and things like that, but the hype there was the fact that we had this APY and this ticker and this core incentive that kind of gave us a tangible item to look at. And kind of kept us emotionally attached to the brand. And that's really what we aim to do with 100 Days. We're going to ride it as long as we can without, doing our best to not deteriorate the Launchpad. But we will be doing very strategic moves and taking precautions in how we can still keep that level of engagement coupled with the new projects that we launch, which will also hopefully be able to launch with that same kind of hype model in mind. And again, really being transparent about that. I think that's been the key to us, is that the other projects that we were in where they weren't as transparent, that stings a little bit. You could have just told us, kind of thing, and we could kind of hang out and know what's coming next. So for us, it's part of our mission to try and do that as much as possible as we're growing in this fast, rapid world of crypto, if you will.
Okay. Speaking of the sort of shadier projects that you guys I guess stumbled into, I'm curious. I've seen some chatter, just like in the general chat, revolving around equity and debts that those other projects would have had. I don't want to name them because I don't want to give them any more notoriety, but I guess I'm just curious, because I've seen so many projects encounter funding stumbles that just balloon outward into a giant implosion. And it sounds like, just from a cursory glance, that's probably what happened over there. How do you guys plan to prevent such things from happening on your side of things?
Sure. So from our standpoint, is everything that 100 Days had ever done pre-market was always funded by the team. So as far as the debt allocation and things like that, we've never had debt as far as 100 Days has ever had. Now, the project that you're mentioning for us is kind of resonates with the aspect of why we entered the space. And a core aspect was bringing business into crypto, but another aspect was kind of doing things the right way. And being from the investor side, all of us on the team here have been in and out of projects, and we've been broad pulled and things of that nature. And a bit part of our calling here was to really do something different in the space. And part of that is cleaning up the space and the narration around it. I mean, even with this whole Luna debacle, is every time something like that happens, that's people that are going to be scared of crypto. And for us, as we see the potential in crypto, but we also know there's aspects of it that have to be fixed over time. And that deal was no different. Were there debts that they had, and we had to make sure that that was part of the deal? Sure. But besides that, really for us, it's just staying true to our nature in the sense of we're here to help the space in every way we can, and we'll continue to do that. And that's part of our business model in 100 Day Resurrection, is kind of taking projects over and partnering with projects that are in need of some help in one way or another, and us kind of coming into there, helping their holders, helping their community, and really having a phased approach to really help the best results possible for both parties.
Like a true venture capitalist would. Very cool. We don't necessarily see ourselves as like the VCs. We kind of see ourselves as a bit of the opposite in some ways, in the sense of we try to do it in the DeFi world, right? Is when you're bringing business into crypto or business in general, the thing with business is business has a model that works, but it's a very slow model.
And for us, really, with crypto, is we have the access to crypto speed where things move 100 miles an hour, and tying the business world to that timeline as much as possible, but more so in the sense of real-time results. And that's just something which we can't experience really in the business world, but crypto gives us that knack to really explore that and really dive into that real-world results aspect.
Okay. There seemed to have been some drama also revolving around the taxation scheme. Can we talk about that for a bit?
Absolutely.
How does the first let's describe the taxation model.
Sure. So for every buy and transfer, we have a 15% tax. And then on the sell side, we launched at a 30% sell tax. Now, over time, we will reduce this, but at launch, we did have it at 30% and still currently do.
Okay. Why would anyone have a problem with the 30% tax as long as the funds can be accounted for?
For us, it's really in the sense of we have that as a place where right now with the way the market is and the troubles with that is we understand that if we just go ahead and reduce that instantly and drop that as a fall safe from 30 to 20, that realistically with that, you ascertain some kind of sell pressure and things of that nature. So for us, it's really working with that game theory aspect where yes, we have a high tax, but over time, as volumes increase, as holders increase, price increase, and different faucets and analytics that we're looking at, that we definitely do pertain to definitely lower that over time. And we'll be lowering that shortly as well, as we did say after a week that we would lower it. So because of that, we are trying to stick to our word with that. Even with the market dynamics, we'll lower that by a bit.
Okay. Yeah, the one concern I have with the game theory model is simply that it can put investors in a position where they're playing chicken with the biggest holders, with the whales. And when the whales sell, everyone else who's a shrimp will lose out. That's just something
Totally.
I've observed.
Totally. And for us, as on the protocol standpoint, is the aspect of if you look at our holders is we really have a lack of whales. But on the tax side, something that we really stay accountable for is whenever there's any changes there, that we make sure to tell our community on every channel 48 hours before. That way it's not really a surprise to anyone, that everyone's aware of it. And also is in the aspect of when we are lowering taxes, we are aware of that processing. So for us, is we're going to try to drop some news and some alpha and things of that nature to really circumvent that, at least the most of our capabilities.
Cool. Okay. All right. Well, let's dive headfirst into the weeds then. I want to go into the team's diversification goals. How is the 100 Days ecosystem planning to diversify the holder equity into real-world businesses? And the context for this question is that there's a roadmap subtitled Powering a True Business Launchpad that hints at some of this seeming to be in the form of intangible research and development. I'm not opposed to R&D, but I'm very curious as to what you're going to look into as far as the capital distribution goes.
Sure. Maybe I'll take the tech side of this first, and I'll
Please.
touch on a bit about how we're structuring the partnerships, because quite honestly, it's the part that like we're most chomping at the bit to share, but we also don't just want to like garble all over, the place. But it was the catalyst and still serves to be the catalyst for, each of the ventures. And so one of the things, there's several things that intrigue us about things like Shark Tank and some of the entrepreneur tools and solutions out there that show real-time business growth and just real-time business processes. And for us as entrepreneurs, it's kind of this, in many respects, it's the painful side, but it's also the fun part, right? Where you're like hoping that you can share these success stories with people. And again, even 100 days, when we tell this story, it's a success story already by virtue of what we would measure or deem a success. And so with that, what we wanted to do was use the foundation and what we've got in our community and say what you have in your community as well, to really bring this 24/7 like reality business series to the world. It's like what we do for fun is build and grow businesses. And part of my agency in Seattle has spent years, some good, some bad, where we've had opportunities to take companies who walk in our doors and say, hey, we've got this idea. Can you help bring it to market? Or we have this product and it's been in market, but it needs a little push, and what those steps and stages look like. That's the fun element to business development. And so what we want to do is really bring that with the mindset of technology. How do you really leverage and bring Web3 and really give the power to the people to some respect? There's the DAO concept and there's DAO solution there, which we may deploy in the future as well. But you have basically the opportunity to kind of build a business in real time and share it with the community that's unlike any other, right?
Fascinating. So let me get this straight. You guys, for fun, take businesses that are sort of, I guess, either struggling or on the cusp of greatness or could be doing better, and you guys save them basically, or show them a way to improve.
You got it. Like a lot of them, to your point, they might be underfunded. So we might look at their overall money raise strategy. What's their existing cap look like? But also, is their technology, does it have value on its own? And more so, does it have value paired up with another technology that we might have in our network? And so you get the opportunity to work with somebody like Rohit, who's not on here, but if you don't already know him, you'll love him. Very business savvy, worked with a lot of big brands as well, and for those organizations. We're able to take that network, my network, Arsh's network. Arsh is very humble young man. Like, this kid is amazing. I say kid with all due respect. He has such a great network. The things that he has done will blow your mind, and the nicest, just sweetest individual ever. And his network is very strong. I mean, all the way at in the government as well. And so when we're looking at trying to bring value from technology, but also do things differently, like, for example, SAP and Oracle, we don't all care that much about those brands unless you're holding their stock, right? And that's your grandfather's stock right there. That's not our world, right? We have this opportunity to really. Hey, now,
I tease.
I'm 45, so I'm a little bit. This is my .com run, right?
No worries, brother. I'm 31. I'm an MBA student. I'm an infinite learner myself, as I say.
Wonderful. Those days were the greatest, man, and that's where I got my start, to be honest. And for another time, we can have that conversation.
Sure.
But it really is where those relationships, the big ones now that were forged. And so we're now able to kind of leverage everything that we've done to kind of do this in public. And it's scary. It's not something that everybody's up to being doxxed. I'm also the CTO of a publicly traded company focused on blockchain and traceability. And, those kind of things matter, I think, when people are making a buy decision into, a world that's typically 99% full of skepticism and, behind closed doors. So we took an oath with one another that, ourselves and our community leads and the folks that, really power our brand are all of the same ethical mindset, that we're in this to win this, and that, we want people to know who 100 Days is, not just for the token side. That's going to be secondary to what, we hope people know us for.
Okay. Cool. Well, that goes straight into my last question, and then we'll kick it to the community. My final question is about security. A lot of these protocols claim that they'll have security functions that'll protect everyone's money, but they don't have them, really, which leads to the project being rug pulled, sometimes by the founders themselves, but often by unscrupulous and untrustworthy employees or coworkers. What assurances do investors have that their staked liquidity is protected from such black swan attacks on the project?
Yeah, Arsh, maybe I'll take the first part and then you can take the second part. So, a lot of folks know that we, as we were going live with the DApp initially, that, we're about 16 days late. A lot of people are like, these guys are months late. Hey, I understand the perspective, but that's not the case. But part of that reason was that when we went through our contract, although we passed the audit, there were things that we were not comfortable with. We have a couple key features in our contract that, you know, we want to make sure are secure. We also want to make sure that we don't have to redeploy. You know, we've done that enough as 100 days. And so, you know, and I can laugh about it now, but everybody knows it's painful. But, you know, all in all, the elements that we ended up augmenting and modifying, and, you know, I can't say all their names, but I can tell you we've worked with a lot of top names in crypto, even over the course of our drop here. A lot of eyeballs, and a lot of eyeballs we trust that you would know their names very well, that, you know, helped us find little areas where this could be a problem. So, you know, from the get-go, we've been focused specifically around the DApp and the smart contract security. And then internally, you know, we keep that very tight. I mean, you're talking about everybody who is doxed are the people who, you know, and those are the folks that can touch any aspect of the internal business, but really that funnels into one individual. And so that one individual is the most trustworthy here. You know, we do have multi-sig on its way. You know, we would have had it prior to last Monday, but we made some adjustments, as you all know, based on the last conversation you and Arsh were just having. But all in all, a very well-oiled funnel internally, and then all of our code deploys are stored, reviewed, and then deployed by one of our senior engineers. So, you know, we do our best to kind of keep the funnel tight and keep everything open and transparent.
All right. Excellent. With that, I will kick it straight into community questions, which we have been pinning all along. Anyone along the way, feel free to edit your pinned questions as well as continue asking if something comes to mind. All right, first question comes from Dwight. When is the next project to be announced? A time frame with a date would help, an ETA, anything like that?
Yeah. So we spent the entire weekend in the conference room, focused on exactly this. We're still working alongside the partners. You know, we I can tell you right now, we are like hungry dogs, right? Like we are just as hardcore about timelines as the community. So we look forward to making an announcement in the next 7 days as it pertains to a true to life timeline. We, as everybody knows, our first endeavor is with our partner Little Orbit, focused on their game title STFU, ships that fly underground, not the other STFU. And so, you know, that's going to be the key project of focus, but we have one right on the heels of that as well that we're looking forward to announcing. And with Little Orbit specifically, they're doing a lot on the growth stage as well. They're, you know, take a look at them if you don't already. Looks can be deceiving as it pertains to what's on the just at face value. They've got their hands in a lot of awesomeness right now. And so our mission right now is to not be greedy, right? We're working on our partnership and making sure that this is going to be a long-standing multi-title, valued partnership, multi-year. So with that, though, just expect an announcement in the next 7 days. They've got some key team traveling and finalizing some things on their end, but that's coming. And then, like I said, shortly after that, we've got one, if not two, that we're going to talk about. And those have very specific dates because they're tied to annual timings and seasons and things like that. So we look forward to sharing that with you.
Okay. Dwight's second question, similar concept. We need someone to post weekly updates and daily updates as to what progress is being made. Can you guys do that, please? Thank you in advance.
Arsh,
Totally.
do you want to jump on that? That's in your bucket.
100%. So for us, is we definitely understand where at first there was some concerns about our communication, things like that. But since then, we've definitely cleaned that up, and there you can definitely expect, I wouldn't say daily updates on something like a Little Orbit, but you can definitely expect daily updates as into what is kind of going on in the background, what are we working on, things of that nature. You can definitely expect updates like that more frequently. But we will always have an announcement every day, whether it's one thing or another. It could be social media related, it could be a new YouTube video, it could be a progression with Little Orbit or one of our other partners, but always expect our announcements. We definitely have those in flow, and we'll continue to communicate with you guys as openly as possible.
And I know, Arsh, we talked about too, there's going to be a set regular in-house hosted AMA that we're finalizing the date and time on right now. That is our big piece for the next 30 days is build a consistent calendar where we're able to kind of give you core updates. And when you know that we launch a project, through the 100 days that we launch those projects, if not sooner, obviously, that we're going to have very specific items that come out related to that project that grow from, concept all the way down to launch, so that we can start building this vocabulary and this kind of expectation together. So we do appreciate the feedback as you guys are continuing to ask. Trust us, we're as like hungry to tell you as you are to hear. So it's fun. That's the fun part.
Cool. It's why we love it. But totally, as Tommy said, is we will have an AMA schedule that will release very shortly. But we're talking on a weekly schedule where we're kind of going over the updates as to what are we working on, where are we at currently, and what's kind of the next week, and what does that entail. So we'll definitely be coming out with that structure around that very shortly here. Next 48 hours, we can post that there. But we're looking to do weekly AMAs and just things of that nature. Always being in tune with you guys for that instant feedback.
Cool. All right, next question comes from Maldito Lucifer Samurai Saga, which is a great name and a mouthful. How can we benefit from minting in this project? I'm not sure it's an NFT project, so I'm not sure there will be minting going on as much as buying coins, but they might do some NFT stuff later.
We do have an NFT Marketplace in the work with one of our partners, and we'll get into that and all of that processing that entails. As we would definitely be having an NFT component, but currently all we have available is our ASTRO token.
Okay. Lucifer Samurai Saga's second question: will you make your own stablecoin like Axie or ApeCoin or Samurai Saga? I'm not sure ApeCoin is a stablecoin though. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, given the last 10 days with the concept around stablecoin, it's been a very interesting one. I can tell you right now, one of the 100 days ourselves, most likely, probably not. What we'd like to do is keep ASTRO pure and ASTRO, and work with the community on what's viable from a long-term APY, and then the items, the companies that we're engaging with. The whole structure that we're building is this ecosystem that feeds the value of that. So as an example, if we launched a project with a partner who has the mindset and has the means of developing a true backed stablecoin, by assets that are not also DeFi centric, that's one of the items on our roadmap, and we look forward to sharing that with you. We do not want to announce that one until we're super set on the mechanics of it, because of the scrutiny right now and well deserved, by the way. Oh, yeah. So that we won't have that aspect right now, but just know that projects that we are working with do have a stable component to them.
All right. Next question from Wolf MVP. Why choose a project on the AVAX chain? Considering recent market fluctuations, do you think using a more popular chain than bridging it might have been more fruitful?
It's tough to say that right now. I think it's a great question. We picked AVAX first and foremost just because we are fans of the chain. I mean, we're fans of many blockchains. We develop on all of them. Not all of them, but the core ones, and even across on Pulse, we're also, very much exploring kind of our next series for us to be good Web3 partners to the folks that we're engaging with. But AVAX for us was, primarily because at the time, the price, even during our pre-sale, guys, was $79, But we do appreciate and respect the thousands of nodes. We do appreciate, the performance that we've seen, although we did have a hiccup during our airdrop. But for us, it was like, let's go this route first. It's a chain we're fond of, and it won't be the last, and it probably won't be the next. We're going to do a bunch of other things, looking at multi-chain, looking at partners in that space that can that already have great names there, etc.
Okay. The MVP's second question: how are decisions taken to rebase or infuse funds into the treasury?
That's a good one. As it pertains to process and internal decisions, Arsh, you want to speak to that, brother?
Totally. So as far as the treasury right now, for us is that total treasury, we're sitting in USDC. We just want to right now kind of see where the market settles and make moves accordance. But for us is we have every decision that is ever made in terms of the protocol standpoint, in terms of anything, is definitely ran by our team. Now, each one of us has our kind of, we call it a superpower, which is where our specialty lies in. But everything that we ever do is a collaborative effort. And as far as our treasury standpoint, we will be having soon kind of on our DApp, there will kind of displays to their treasury, where is it at, where the investment's made and things of that nature. That's why it's just open and out there for everyone to see. But any decisions that are made there will go through a process and even put out kind of our basis as to why we made it, what is our thought behind it and things of that nature. But for us, it's every decision is made as we make it in tune with our community and our whole team, making sure everyone is on board and has the same train of thought kind of leading towards the direction. And if there's any concerns that are kind of there for it, that they're addressed in a constructive way. And that way kind of we use that to just level ourselves up and just really make sure everyone's on the same page and that we're doing what we believe to be best for the protocol.
Okay. All right. Next question comes from Zerga. How did you come to acquire Raven Finance, pre-sale investors liquidity, and how was the developer of that project compensated?
Sure. So as far as Raven Finance, our head of marketing, Ono, was also involved with their marketing team. So he was able to make that connection for us. And from there, really, as we just started talking very quickly, and we knew that we both were launching the next day with conflicting launch times. So for us, it's just to quickly kind of break out that deal, make it work for the best of both communities. And that's what we did there. Now, as far as their developer, we had been in contact with the development previously, as we had some issues with our contract. We're just running it by them, and we've had nothing but pleasant things to say about their developers. Now, as far as any debts taken on by Edgar or the team at Raven, I can't speak as to that, but I can assure you that everything there was handled by Crypto Truth Bombs KYC as well as Obsidian to make sure everything there was taken care of above board.
Okay. Ooh, Zerga does actually have a second question. Why did you not give the option of a refund, considering that the project, which I believe he means Raven Finance, the project bought was not a Titano fork?
Sure. So as far as Raven is, they did have the same very, very similar project to us. The only real difference as far as them was the core thing was that they were doing some cross-chain functionality and things of that nature, but they still were an auto-staking rebasing project. So the core principle that was the same. But for us, really was more so in the fact of why we acquired Raven was the sense of Edgar was kind of, he had reached us, and when he reached out to us, he was kind of in the sense of, he was in over his head, he believed, and that we could benefit from this and really help the Raven community and bring them onto ours. And really their weakness was the sense of not being as public as they are. And for us, we believe that is our biggest strength. Us being as doxxed as we are, as open as we are, that we're able to really construct around that, and we can move in a very open and transparent way. Now, covering the refund aspect, for us, it was just kind of moving all trains forward. Is the aspect of Raven was being acquired by us, but it was acquired for the sense of to benefit both communities and really make sure each one is a stronghold rather than a competitor to each other. So for us, it's just really focusing on the sense of that we were launching in a very short amount of time, and really focused on that sense to really benefit everyone possible and take care of both communities.
Okay, very interesting. I don't know anything much about the Raven Finance thing, so we're seeing some chatter, like you guys get questions about this a lot. Do you get questions about this a lot?
Yes. And they're fun ones. I mean, it was a very, I had the fortunate opportunity of seeing this go down in the time frame that it did. This happened very fast, guys. It was like Arsh and Ro are not going to toot their own horn, but what you're talking about is you're adopting a company and their community and their team overnight. Some of them went to bed, being on the Raven team, and woke up being on the 100 Days team. Literally, it happened that fast. And we felt strongly about it. We knew that it could possibly jeopardize our launch, but we felt strongly about the fact that good community, kind of underserved in the fact that they didn't really have this ongoing voice. You see how active our community is. We're very proud of that.
Oh yeah.
And Arsh and Daryl and team do a great job. I mean, with just everybody on our team rocks. And so with this deal, it came together very swift, and we, sat down, we did the mechanics, we looked at like how do we make sure that we can do our best to take care of their team. But so it wasn't about, more of, I know the question on the refund aspect. It was more like our projects are very similar. Let's go out with a bang. They were going to launch that same day, just a couple hours later than us. And so it really, for us, it seemed like it made sense. We know that we're going to go through a little bit of a spike and then a drop and then start to climb. And you can start seeing even when we've done. But I think it really, all in all, I think it helped benefit a lot of the community, to be honest. On both sides.
Okay.
And hats off to Arsh and Ro for doing a deal and Ono and team in less than 24 hours and onboarding the community and dealing with the, negative sentiment while preparing for launch. Good work.
All right. Next question from Master Halo 40. The system you have for auto staking with the token, how does the APY work? I would also like to know if you plan to have your token in the future in a centralized exchange or even on other networks?
Yeah, as far as the APY, it's very similar to Titano and Libero and the mechanics of, the rebasing. Where we want it to stay fixed at 48 times per day. And we want it to stay fixed at the current APY that it is right now, which is overall, you're talking 1.91% a day. That will be as long as we can. But the mechanics are very simple. It's just kind of, looking at every rebase, every compound. And yeah, that's about as much as I think, if I'm answering the question correctly.
And that was for us Totally. For us, that was really attracted us to this whole thing. Another aspect was the simplicity from a user perspective. Is simple, is that every 30 minutes you're continuing to grow, and that's the whole nature of it, is that from a user side, there's not much needed. As far as being cross-chain and being on a centralized exchange, currently the way it's structured is you cannot be on a centralized exchange because of the auto-staking mechanic. But for us, as we will continue to innovate and do some other things there, and over time we do hope to do things like that. As far as being cross-chain, we'll be adding some implementation of things that are interesting there, even this week. But for us, it's really just continuing to grow our ecosystem, being cross-chain with that functionality itself. And I see TerrorZone has joined us. Daryl.
Yes, TerrorZone is here.
Daryl, what?
Hello, fellas. Hello.
Hi, TerrorZone.
I'm very sorry I'm late. My wife scheduled for us to house hunt, and then I saw this AMA scheduled, and I was not going to pick that battle, so I am here now.
No problem. Would you mind taking a moment, since you're a latecomer, to introduce yourself to the audience?
So hi, everyone. I'm TerrorZone, Daryl, whatever you want to call me. I started off here. I'm a core member of the team. I've been here since day one. I kind of function as a community manager, although we did hand that off to Chris or Chrome. However you want to notate him, we are very doxed here, so we go by whatever name you want to go by. And I'm kind of the jack of all trades when it comes to what I do here. I've helped out from you name it. Literally, I set the Discord up, and I've helped write some of our articles. You may have noticed. I update the Git book, and I'm very education focused. I'm a pediatric ICU nurse in real world. So I just bring that education and like converting or explaining complex theory or concepts in an understandable way. And I'm very big on educating the DeFi space to allow for everybody to be smarter investors, smarter and more strategic in how they handle their funds and money as a whole. And very much want everybody to kind of take on that knowledge, because I believe with knowledge plus the experience of DeFi, as we're all seeing, we've all been here through another historic moment in DeFi with Luna and the Terra ecosystem lately. That's, kind of reverberates back with like 2010 or so with the Bitcoin hack and things like that to really kind of just, figure out how to navigate this space safely. So that's what I'm here for you guys. So.
Okay. We've talked about a lot of different subjects, so I wish I could go back and give you a chance to comment on each one. Yeah, for the moment, I'm just gonna kind of keep it moving for the community's sake. Uh, Master Halo 40's second question: do you guys have a governance system like a DAO where holders can help to decide the future of the project by voting for the best proposals by the team and community?
Sure. So for us, as right now, we are not operating like a DAO. In the future, we do plan to. But as far as being engaged with our community and running polls and getting their pulse on things, that is something that we pride ourselves on doing. Is Daryl, myself, and all of us here, from an AMA standpoint, from a chat perspective, we're always in there. But as far as polls specifically, and when we're doing kind of the treasury different things and doing other cool innovative things, is we will definitely be always having polls and just kind of getting a pulse from our community in any way that we can.
And yeah, I would like to chime in there and just add that, that's been evident throughout our journey for those that have been here with us since day one on the changes and aspects that we've taken in. Even our pre-sale, we were very quick. We had a slider for people to augment their pricing, but they were not able to type it in, and people did not like that. And even though it was visually cool, people wanted to be able to type in their price value and things like that. So we were able to, in real time, during the middle of a pre-sale, augment with our front end and back end to have it where the pre-sale then allowed people to augment their price rather than use a sliding scale per the feedback of the community. The feedback of the community wanted to, or was concerned about, the ability to massively sell. That happens in some protocols, and our kind of approach to not penalizing just a whale just for being a whale, whether they take $5 or $5,000 in a single transaction, and really rather hold everybody accountable, that we were able to, with the augmentation and upgrade of the contract from our pre-sale to our inevitable one at launch, to have a $50,000 per day transaction cap for sales for the wallet. So though we are not a DAO at this point in time, because very, very strongly believe that it's hard for a community to have the best interests of a protocol if they don't have the vision. They don't know the partnerships. They don't know what we have planned. So it's hard to ask for that kind of feedback, but it doesn't mean that we aren't receptive to what is being said to the community day in and day out, and being very tapped in. You'll see Arsh and myself in there as one of the top 5 at least, to top 10 hopefully when everything is said and done, because we do have some very, very active mods. And as far as like the Discord level in the community, we're very active and proactive in answering questions and staying tuned with the community. So not a DAO yet, or whatever, that could be a possibility down the line. But for right now, we are just very open and to constructive criticism and listening as we grow.
Okay. BD Crypt asks, what are the alternative plans you have for sustaining this project, presumably 100 days and ASTRO, at peak? For example, I believe they mean preventing what happened to Luna from happening to you.
So for us, it's really 2 core aspects, and I think that's new growth and as well as a resurrection, right? Kind of tapping into the aspect of bringing business into crypto, and along with that is the notion of what our partnerships represent differently than the space. Because a lot of partnerships in crypto essentially are a shout out here or there, and that entails a partnership. For us, it's just a lot more than that. For us, there has to be a revenue sharing model and other things that really make it a collaborative effort that makes it very beneficial for both parties, but more in the sense of revenue than anything else. So for us, as we believe our resurrection platform, which is really helping DeFi projects out and being that connector to either real world businesses, us taking them over, us partnering with them and different things around that, but having a platform for that, like a platform as a service essentially for the resurrection aspect. And then on the business end, as Tommy spoke about, is kind of using our deep kind of consensus of our networks and things of that nature. And a lot of things that Tommy does on the back end is he has a lot of great partners that he's worked with in the real world, that he's really navigated and built relationships over many, many years that are looking to make that new change into crypto and DeFi, and us kind of helping them with that move and supporting them through that process. But through that is the goal of utility, and with that comes along sustainability in our core model for that.
Awesome. Second question. How would you define the main feature of 100 days and how it would differ from similar projects?
I think for me, or Daryl, if you want to go ahead, you can go. But for me, the core thing is it's just one thing, and it's several things, but to me, it's one core thing, and that's bringing business into crypto, but in real time, where when things are happening, where revenue is made and other things are going on, that there's inherent effects of that instantly, at least as close to that as possible. To me, is the aspect of being that channel from being openly Doxxed and being as public as we are, but really making those big corporations and those big players in the real world that have never really gotten to the exposure of crypto. And for them, it's kind of seen the waters, they see it, and they believe in the potential of crypto. It's a scary world, especially when we see things happening like we have this week, but as kind of being that strategic partner to bring them to this space. I'm sure Tommy and Daryl can add to that.
Sure. Yeah, I think you said it well, bud, and kind of you can hear in the underlying components that we're talking through today that our main mission is to be the bridge between crypto and traditional business, and really bringing new cutting edge technologies or things that maybe didn't have the opportunity to blossom at the time they were launched, but still have a lot of legs. That's our mission. We want the sustainability of the Launchpad is going to be by the businesses that we bring into it. And you'll see 100%, we are on the same level as the community. We're a true Launchpad. There's nobody holding a ton of coins on our team or anything like that. We all came in the same way because we believe in the businesses that we're going to bring to the community. So it's a business unlike any other.
And I just want to add to that, for the crypto side or crypto investor to look at us comparative to other projects or altcoins in general, every altcoin has the same notion, and we're seeing that here live and direct with what happened with Luna and us being paired with AVAX, is you're subjective to Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance has not changed in the crypto space to this point. There's been theory of Ethereum and stuff like that being able to overturn it at some point, but right now that is not the case. So when it comes to investing in altcoins or investing in a protocol in general, the one aspect that I love that I think speaks the biggest volume for us is, as they're mentioning, the partnerships, but what that really means. If we have the backgrounds that we do to really already know how to conduct business in a way that the partnerships are not just shout outs, but they're actually revenue generating, provide better clarity. And we're going to, continue to work on that with our first partner, Little Orbit. Obviously when you're talking about partnerships and global partnerships as big as they are, you have legal teams and things of that nature that you have to go through. And it's very tedious. But it's for the betterment of both protocols in general and how traditional business works and the speed of crypto. We're blending that, and we're going to continue to work on bettering that information out. But in being able to do that and bring those partnerships and revenue generation happening, we will get to a point with our project with a number of partners that we have already kind of lined up to be announced, and the ones that are soon to come, in having this astronomical APY that sounds ridiculous. And yes, it's just constant inflation of tokens at the current moment. But when you talk about utility, if that token is now receiving revenue from any or all of the revenue generating partners with multi-million active users or things like that, you start to talk about the ability for an altcoin to actually avoid the crutches of Bitcoin dominance. And I think that notion is not being harped enough. And as an investor, you really got to look into that. We have the opportunity when we have, and we've listed in our ecosystem view, and please go check that on our Git book or look at our white paper and things like that. And the AMA that we did, but we are touching on some fields that we've already mentioned, things like real estate, things like Web 3.0, things like enterprise. We have to add supply chain on there. And when you start talking about these fields and getting a better idea, those things are not dependent on whether or not people care about what Bitcoin's doing. So if we can get those transactions, if we can get the revenue to be outside of the realm of crypto, still impacting the protocol, we have the opportunity at one point for our project to be something where it's revenue generating and it has nothing to do with Bitcoin. And I think that is just a really tall task to ask. But seeing how our team has already put together a partnership with with Little Orbit before even launching, and knowing behind the scenes how many more we have to announce as we strategically do this, that as an investor makes me confident as a core team member and as an investor on what we're bringing to the table here. Because yes, the market looks crazy right now. Absolutely. Nobody in their right mind would launch right now. But knowing where we're going, we're not concerned about the short-term price action value. So I know that was a long answer there, but like really think about that as an investor when you're investing in a protocol. I'm not saying dump your money into us right now, but what I am saying is consider what I just said as the forego of what you're buying into when you look at what to invest in a bear market like this, because bull markets will make you money, bear markets will make you rich, is what they say.
Yes. And to try and steelman what you're telling me in as few words as possible, essentially the 100 Days in ASTRO token project hopes to diversify itself into enough actualized, realized businesses and not necessarily just it be entirely about DeFi liquidity farming. That diversity gives your token a hedge capacity. Is that what I'm hearing, essentially?
Absolutely.
Bingo.
You got it. Well synthesized, my brother.
Okay. Very, very, very interesting. All right, next question from Raucous Porpoise. Which strategic partnerships with other chains and projects are you hoping to get in the long term?
There's several that we'll be announcing, some that we can't quite talk about right now, but they're pretty well diversified. What seems to be coming our way, there's a lot of awesome things now flowing in this direction versus us having to go out there and kind of hunt a bit. So, that's a long-winded way of saying, we've got a roadmap. We're going to be sharing it with you very soon. And as they unfold and we want to give priority to each, you'll be the first to know.
Okay.
And for us as partnerships and resurrections and things of that nature is when we immerse ourselves so much in the community, it becomes an aspect where it's not always us reaching out. It's sometimes people reach out to us, and that's a core thing. Like for instance, from the Raven deal, I have a project nearly every day that hits me up about a resurrection. Now for us, we're very selective on our partnerships as well as our resurrections. If it has to make sense for our community, their community, as well as our partners. There has to be true substance behind it. And with that process, we're very selective, but we're always open to hearing people out and trying to make something work where it's applicable.
Okay, so projects will come to you guys sort of seeking, hey, we need a stimulus, if you will. And you guys will then have that conversation and sort of discuss it on a case-by-case basis?
You got it.
Okay. Raucous Porpoise's second question, what, if any, rewards are there for early investors or long-term backers of the project?
Yeah, we've got some fun things in the works, as founding members. As you notice, we brand every one of our mission or our core projects as missions and things like this. Key milestones will also have the same thing. We've got something for our Raven family as well. But as far as kind of overall longevity, getting in right now, hopefully feels really good. But also different perks and different things that we'll be able to do at the launch of every project that we look forward to giving back to our community, our founding community.
And for us, it's like, as Tommy talked about, and I think people haven't really, or their new community hasn't really seen it. For Easter, we did this basket drop of different graphics that Tommy had made. And I'll try to make a post about this after, is kind of checking that out. I think they were really cool and beautiful. They're wallpapers and different things for everywhere. And kind of that badge concept where every partnership or everything we're doing will have a badge to it. And Tommy has a lot of fun with it. And he made some really beautiful stuff. And as far as our founding members and kind of our early adopters, is also the process of compounding, right? Is when after a certain amount of time, that compound really becomes extensive. And now on the inflation side, that's the case, but also from a user end, over time, it really starts building up to a very substantial position, especially when you're in there early and letting that effect really rise.
And next question comes from Sakuna. Does management have an effective system in place to model, manage, and balance risks and opportunity cost? And I just want to say, as an MBA student right now, that question is chef's kiss beautiful.
Absolutely. So, for example, as Arsh had mentioned, even over the weekend, as we're looking at items that are coming in, the first metric that we use is really what's the value for the community. So, do we need to bring these new entities inside of our own structure, which is very detrimental to us at the token level, or do we need to construct a new vehicle for us to be able to do those kind of partnerships, and still how do they ladder to the overall goal of continuing to sustain the 100 days group, right? Meaning that everything funnels into 100 days. So, every single project starts with that. And then really it's just straight math in many regards. And it's good math to say, how does this affect the group long term? What are the short term gains? Those kind of things. Are they worth it? Etc. So it's not just about liquidity and community members. It's about, wallets. What's their structure? Right now, as I mentioned, we've got a very nice wallet structure if you look at all of our holders. So it's taking all that into consideration to A, protect the community, and B, make sure that we don't fall on our face.
Okay. The second question from this user is, what are the long-term sustainable value drivers for the Q redo token? I'm not actually sure Q redo has anything to do with 100 days. It might. You guys have anything to do with the Q redo token?
I am not familiar with that one.
Okay, yeah. Our users will sometimes bring questions about a different project. You're in the wrong AMA for that one, my friend, but I loved your first question. Yes, Maldito Lucifer Saga Samurai is back. He asks when staking are available and do you have white paper? The answer to both of those is just yes. It's available and they have a white paper. Moving on. Usama Anwar. How are you going to target the big crypto markets of South Asian states like Pakistan and India? Do you think that this region might be able to change the fate of your project?
Sure. For us, it's really kind of diving into the marketing aspect of it. And we have Ona, who is our head of marketing. And as you can see through our announcements, things like that, we've had a YouTube video come out about us almost daily. But for us now, it's kind of navigating that global audience. And for that is kind of reaching out to kind of bigger news outlets and media outlets, as well as kind of diving into the interview aspect of an aspect that we think we can shine at is really articulating our project, spreading our transparency and our whole mission to us to what we're doing. So for us, as we continue to ramp up those marketing efforts, especially globally, and also reach out to some bigger audiences out there and some bigger creators out there to really help us get our exposure there.
Okay. His second question, will you be hiring different influencers, bloggers, or additional community managers for the project?
Absolutely. We continue to onboard daily. I mean, something that I'm very proud of and that we all are is how many mods and how much of a team we really have. We currently have, I think it's 22 different mods on our staff here. So as far as the different timetables on different intervals, I mean, we have it covered really in every aspect that we can.
Awesome. Next question from Arthax. Why have you decided to launch your project in bad times for crypto when the whole market is dropping by a lot?
They weren't dropping. They weren't dropping when we did our pre-sale.
I bet when they scheduled the launch, it wasn't this bad, y'all.
Not at all, man.
I think it also goes to show, and what from my long narrative before about how comfortable we feel with the space, you're going to have bull and bear markets. If you're really pitching that you want to be here for, let's be honest, a year is a blue chip in crypto. 3 to 6 months is not a given for any project and protocol. And who's to say that this bear market is only but a week or whatever? So if you are dealing with a project, you want to see as an investor personally, them be able to handle the bear markets. And not to say that you want to see an aggressively bear market, but you want to see how they handle it, because it's through those trials and tribulations that you can see how strong the team is and if it's worth your investment long term. I think it's very easy to launch in a bull market and everything go up and go boom and win Lambo and everything's a money hit. Every project looks like they're the best team ever in the space. it's in these bear markets that you're either going to have projects shade away and not launch, or fall to the wasteland, or quite frankly, been reaching out to us. So that's just truly what it is when it comes to the space. And hopefully our community is seeing us comfortably handle having AMAs, doing live streams when the rest of the market looks bloody.
Yeah.
Because, so.
True.
For us, the core aspect is we will never stop building and working, right? No matter what the market it has, no matter what is going on in the world, we will always be in tune here and working. I think all of us had these other real world things that we were all working on, but we saw collaboratively kind of the impact crypto has and how we can make a mark here. So for us, it's really, we give all of our attention here and a lot of time and are dedicated here and doing everything we can in this space. So we will never stop working no matter what things are at. We control what we control and we understand that, but we will keep moving ahead.
Okay. Very interesting. My next question comes from Hustle. As a company owner who may be interested in using your platform to raise funds for their company, project, or future business idea, how would I go about this process? And what are the steps required to get on board?
Sure, great question. So we're going to be launching a platform on our base website, 100 Days Ventures. We've got that whole new build coming out very shortly. And on there, you'll be able to submit for both our new growth program as well as our resurrection program. Great question. And there'll be some, baseline questions in there about just to give us an idea of, what you're looking for and things like that. But, it'll create a nice funnel for us all.
Hustle's second question, is there a requirement to give up ownership equity to 100 Days Ventures? And if there is, how exactly would that work?
Great question. So, as you see with our the way that we're talking about our current partnerships, most of this is where we were saying we weren't a VC. We're trying not to take equity in the companies that we do business with. What we're trying to do is really set them up for success. And I think that's where a lot of the VC structure is a hindrance. It's because it's what's in it for me, and they haven't started the way that we're starting. So that's what differentiates us between a launchpad and what we want to be the name. We want people to be like, I'm like 100 Days. We're a launchpad. Whereas our focus is really how do we use the strengths that are inherent within 100 Days in the world of DeFi and what TerrorZone and JJ manage with the team on a daily basis. And also, how do we bring real world rewards and revenue to the community that is a token holder, And so in that, what we're aiming to do is, we don't want a piece of the company. We want a piece of the action. We want to be built into your tokenomics, unlike any other company has ever been before, where your contract has a reference to us that the people get to see. And in turn, our community gets to see real-time revenue and performance from that partnership. How much money are we making per day based on this relationship? What other relationships should we be going after? That is what we're building here that no other group has ever done before.
Well, in that sense, I've used the term venture capitalism to describe what you guys are doing, but that really doesn't sound right.
Which is totally cool to us.
But at this point, it doesn't sound right. I think angel investors might be more accurate.
Yeah, or even, because we're talking about the fact that we're not trying to even own a portion of that. If a company offers it, that's great and we'll consider it. But our main objective is how do we build an ongoing, reoccurring revenue stream that happens every day that allows us to pivot and turn on a dime? That's the beauty of DeFi right now, and that's the beauty of this community, and still bring value to the underlying token holders. We're not sitting at the top with a business structure where there's 4 founders here that take a bunch of revenue. It's actually the exact opposite. Our aim is to fuel the jet as long as possible, and then in turn be able to bring long-term strategy to our monetization. Meaning, like, if you've got an NFT that you're launching, use our marketplace to launch it. Sure, that's great. We'll make small little fees, but more importantly, can we take a portion of that NFT transaction up front, that compensates for us managing and being the community? And in turn, the community makes out because they get all the hot new heat all the time, right? If you really are truly a 100 days investor and a 100 days believer, then you're in there already all day long, and we see you and we know who you are. So for us, having that as an investor, in our opinion, is super, there's no way to put a value on it. So that's what we aim to build, is this constant launch pad that is reoccurring for everybody.
Wow. We're over the hour mark, so I just want to thank your team for sticking with us and the community for sticking around to listen and ask more questions. This answer, though, really begs a very specific question from me, which is to say, from what I've been learning about the traditional business finance world, the question always seems to be, does my company retain earnings? Do I seek outside financing, or do I start diluting and trying to get new equity and raise money that way? If 100 days isn't seeking equity, then that does kind of beg the question, how is 100 days, I guess, build itself into someone else's business model without being a part of the equity, without holding equity in someone's company?
Great question. So the businesses that we're looking at, even at the traditional sense, they all are looking for Web3 integration. And so that's the value add that we're bringing to the table when you're partnering with us. So it's both the community aspect and how to communicate with people and kind of setting a new bar for that. Social media is not where it's at. I mean, that's a beautiful spot, but we wouldn't consider this social media by any stretch. And so it's for us to be able to, work with those partners and help them on their Web3 strategy. And in turn, we are baked into their web strategy as, say, one of the wallets that is getting fed into on their consistent tokenomics. So that's the mission that we have, is let us participate in the revenue. We make money when you make money. And in turn, we help you make money. You get our marketing team, you get our language, you get our narrative, you get our abilities to help launch. And we also bring all of the same capabilities we do in our day-to-day. If you need smart contract strategy, if you need brand strategy, if you need investors, like from a traditional sense, absolutely, So, and that's not to say that we won't operate in that bucket either in the future. But right now we're very much centered around sustainability and ongoing tokenomics for the community.
Okay. Next question we touched on in the beginning, but we also have TerrorZone here now, so it's not a bad thing to re-ask. What inspired you guys to come up with the unique name? I'd add both 100 Days and ASTRO to that.
Well, I'll let Arsh start off, only because, and I guess this was partly answered before, but I know, like, he kind of came up with the names. There was very much a psychological component behind the 100 Days, so I'll let him articulate that because he does it so well. And then the ASTRO one is a fun little hint.
Totally. So for us, is the 100 days kind of was the power of 100 days and what that symbolizes in the education world and the industry and professional world as well, and how the impact that you can have in 100 days from a learning standpoint and a development standpoint, what that really means. So for us, it's kind of tapping into the power of that. And as far as the naming on the ASTRO side, that was kind of a thing to my dog. I have a daughter retriever, and his name is ASTRO. As well as we like the kind of the visual aspect of ASTRO, and we just think the symbolization behind it is pretty cool as well.
Okay. Second, I lost my questions. All right, there we go. All right, so we've already asked and. All right, next question comes from Sammy. Will there be bug bounties for developers? And what do you plan to back the project with? I'd venture to guess in terms of assets.
Yeah, great question. We were just having this conversation this morning, literally. So thank you. Absolutely. We for all of the projects that we deploy, that's going to be part of the fun, is that we get to reach out to the community to say, hey, any developers out there, any folks that want to do design work? A lot of these companies that we're working with, they might have a ton of strength in the areas that they focus on, But there's going to be a lot of opportunity where, we can put out to say, hey, you guys want a QA and test? Do we have any beta users, etc. Across not only the DeFi side, but even say, I'm not suggesting for the game, but let's say we're working with the game developer and we want a couple beta weeks or whatever. We'll be throwing that all out to the community for sure. Thanks for asking.
Interesting. Second
And then-
question. Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, I was just going to tag into the what do we plan to back ourselves with aspect of that question. If we have, and we did write it, I believe, in the Git book. I'm still updating that, guys. So with education and stuff to really make sure our narrative is clear to everyone as we continue to evolve. So bear with me. But from that point, we want to hold an investor standpoint. It's a good notion for individuals to take on their own portfolios, but no financial advice, as I'm not a financial advisor. None of us are. But the rule of 10 when you're investing in something. So we'll have our treasury, and obviously right now the whole market is bearish. And, even if you were to be using your treasury for the Luna anchor that seemed to be the inverse of the market, you would be at a total loss right now. So I have an idea, and I'm very good with technical analysis and things like that to kind of, I trade on stock market, those kind of things, but offer that extra tool and feedback to the community as well as our team in being able to figure out a nice little entry point and stuff. And we will have no more than 10 projects that we're invested in at any one given time. We'll be completely transparent, have a nice visual UI for it, and have a whole complete enter and exit strategy, how much profit we're looking to take and things of that nature to allow us to just grow our assets and grow our protocol in that way. I think when you're dealing with a bear market, your best bet is to basically have stables. And try and DCA your profits and DCA your way into protocols without going in large lump sums, because if it continues to drop, you're going to lose the value in those initial investments. But on the return around, you'll be able to make great asset returns. So that's a strategy you can take with you during this market time. I do believe we have more to go as far as dropping goes, but that would be a strategy to help us back our token, which is, yes, it's a bear market, but the beauty of it being a bear market is at some point, your entry is going to be a very good entry when you look at the recovery. And that's going to tuck your position, tuck our investments, tuck our protocol in a very substantially nice cushion for providing additional profits and things like that as it returns. So that would be the backing question, but we're not going to back it by, just Bitcoin or something like that. We'll take a diverse approach to it.
Okay. Sammy's second question. Will your project be more primarily community-based or more primarily based on whales or investors who, in Sammy's opinion, often ruin some very good projects?
We would totally agree with that. For us, it's definitely community-driven and making that in tune from a product side. If you look at our tokenomics, our holders, and everything like that, we really have a lack of whales. If I'm remembering correctly, I don't think anyone holds over $10,000 of ASTRO, maybe 15 mats. But truly, is we try to make ourselves as whale-proof as possible from a taxes standpoint, a protocol standpoint, but also from the way we market ourselves and the way we kind of lead ourselves. We really are community-driven and pride ourselves on that. Daryl, I know you unmuted there if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, and you'll notice the way, again, education focused here in the way in which the Git book is written. We do have the Whale Academy, and I call it that because I believe it's important for everybody to understand the impact of what a whale could be, which we all have seen and know when there's a bad whale and they can dump on a protocol, and that really sucks. But I think there's also a hidden notion that's not really given enough light that we address, I believe, which is the several guppies or smaller investors that are all dumping on the protocol in massive value. I mean, let's take, for example, let's say Sphere. Sphere did such a multiple of profit in its launch and rise that it didn't matter whether you put $1,000 in or $10,000 in, you were in significant amount of money that may have been money you've never seen before. And you trying to realize that value and pull it out in massive amounts, which nothing wrong to you should do that. But that's constant dumping on the protocol. That's not a whale. That's just everybody trying to grab there and realize their profit while it's there before it's gone, because we've all been there before. So what we try to do is, instead of it being, if you earn a certain percentage of tokens, then you have a higher tax, we held everybody accountable. across the board, because it doesn't need to be one whale that makes the project go bad. So if we have the tier tax system, and feel free to check out our tokenomics, where $0 to $10,000 worth of a transaction has our normal sliding sale tax from 20% to 30%. We also hold ourselves accountable to offer a 48-hour window before we make any changes up or down on that value, so you as an investor can properly educate your calculations and take profit accordingly. We also have that above 10,000 up to 25,000 in a singular transaction will be taxed at 50% flat rate. Again, available for you if you want to take it in a large lump sum, but we encourage the smaller profit aspect. If you go above $25,000, it is an invader tax of 80%. So we are doing that to discourage people from taking large lump sums at one time. We also have the wallet cap. So I wouldn't say necessarily it's an attack at whales. I don't like when protocols did if you're a whale, you own a certain percentage of the protocol, whether you took $5 or $50,000 of a transaction or a sell, you were taxed higher just by your position alone. And I think if you're a whale and you believe in a project and invest in it, but you're DCAing profits slowly over time, you shouldn't be penalized for that. And by doing that, as a protocol, you're kind of taking the first jab at them to test them, to be like, okay, well, now I have to sell more to overcome your tax to get the amount that I want. And it gets into a spiraling effect. So we took a very different approach, and we held everybody accountable education-wise, because we all want to be whales one day. And understanding the benefit of taking small profits over time will benefit a protocol as a whole. So yeah.
Yeah, everybody trying to win is why I've called, no offense to your all's project, but projects like Jade Protocol, I've tended to call those a game of investment chicken, where here I am, my briefcase is my bag, and I'm walking down the tracks. And then coming straight at me is a whale with 20 to 30% of the holding, and they just run a train over me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the project, that is one that we want to emulate a lot of the things that we want to do different on, and I came from that project. I really, had high hopes for it, and just the things like changing the rebasing, and just completely removing a lot of the expectation. Like on our end, if we say something, again, we all have our challenges and things like this, but we look to overcome those. And if we say we're going to do something, we absolutely are going to do it, and you can see it in the Raven deal. The moment we took those folks on, we were not going live until we knew all of the math, and that we knew with confidence we could take care of them. So I think that's like, we're going to, if we say it's going to rebase as long as possible, we are going to tell you, and well in advance when we're making decisions, not, etc.
All right, and we'll get to our final two questions then. These come from the one, the only Sergeant 13 Bravo. First question: as soon as you said high APY and rebase, big red flag alert for me. I've been burned too many times on protocols just like that. How would you change my mind as someone who wants to invest?
Yeah, it's a number. We chose auto rebasing because of the reasons that Arsh mentioned earlier, which are ease of use for the user at the end of the day, and the token holder, and second to that is that there's a lot of key benefits of going the distance on a launch of that size, and we want to ride this APY as long as we mentioned. But remember, we're also, as TerrorZone had mentioned, we're very bullish on the businesses that we're bringing on board, and the way in which we're integrating that revenue right back into the way we feed the community. There is no question that, a lot of we've all been burned on the high APY projects. For us, it's a matter of, we're telling you right now, there is no way that this is fully sustainable, but right now it is. And let's participate and grow together and be able to build this. And as we continue to add new fuel to the fire through the onboarding of these other new companies, etc., we aim to sustain that as long as possible, and also have other benefits too. You get into all those projects early on. Maybe they have different ways to invest or ways to participate in their growth, etc. But, that's all the intrinsic value that's stemming from what we're trying to do from a sustainability perspective.
Yeah, simply put, the goal is to eventually turn the APY. I'm not saying it'll be the same APY, but turn the APY over from an increased value of tokens to increased value of real world revenue through our partnerships. So yes, of course, over time, this won't be sustainable. But as we transition that over from tokens to real world revenue, you're getting the best bang for your buck earlier on, having the most tokens to impact that ability to really receive as much revenue as possible. So,
Okay.
Ongoing.
All right, Sarge's second question and the final question of the AMA. I just invested in 100 days. It's 365 days later from my initial investment. Prospectively, what is my investment looking like? What do I see? What am I happy with? What do you think I'll be unhappy with? That's a tough one.
I want to take this.
This is a tough
That's
one.
great.
I love the psychology behind the question here. I wanna go into the mindset of that user. So if I am that user and it is 365 days later, number one, let's hope we're not in a bear market still. But either way, I think as an investor, if I've invested now and it's 365 days later, I've been paying attention to the team and their incentives and routes for receiving revenue in a constructive manner, so it's realized, so that I just didn't dump capital in there that I haven't already received back and then some. Very much encourage people to, the minute you have the ability to have your initial capital removed, remove it. Because then why, yes, you could hit a home run in one swing, but at the same time, you can now have a project and protocol you believe in that is completely profit based. And it allows you to be a little less emotional, because we're all emotional when it comes to money, to be able to manage that in a strategic way. So if I have done so, I would have used the 1% claim fee that we offered that is tax-free to our users. You hit the, approve your claim. That will start your 7-day countdown. You get 1% free that you can claim on when you're ready to, based off of your total position, automatically from our protocol, so you can avoid taxes that way if you care to, and just ride it out with us. We have other things like the ASTRO NFT savings and things of that nature that will allow you to utilize your token from a crypto standpoint to address other sources of revenue, either earning stable coins off of your ASTRO or however we roll those out. So I would be diversified in the ecosystem that 100 Days has laid upon me, trying my best to get a little taste of every bit of the revenue that they're offering in the ways that they wish they offer it, and be happy that I've kind of created a mini portfolio or a mini, bond or EFT, so to speak, through 100 Days and the partnerships they were able to bring upon in a completely profit-based position. Regardless of whether the market's at, maybe they've already established some partners that have nothing to do with the market, and we're seeing that revenue. And we're seeing one of the first altcoins to not be impacted by the crypto space market. And I was there at the ground floor. And that's where my head's at this point. And now it's like, well, what can these guys do next? Because we've made it a year, and we would have made a name for ourselves at that point in time, that now everybody's FOMOing to figure out how that was possible. You're at Bitcoin and ETH or Doge or SHIB when they first started out, DeFi kingdoms even. So as an investor, that's where my head would be at, and what's next, and how much, what's financial freedom at this point, and how am I working towards divesting my portfolio into other avenues, whether it be capping my 401k and 529 for my kids. Those in the United States know what I'm talking about. And really diversifying my portfolio to have that be continuous generational wealth for me and my family. It's not just about having one project or protocol making me rich. It's about how do I sustain that for continual revenue passively, to really solidify my position and the growth and the hard work that I put in. So,
Just an end point that I want to leave on is the fact of, for us, a year is as I spoke about earlier, is us kind of everything that we're doing on the sideline is putting all that attention into crypto, and to build, to onboard new partners, to do more resurrections, to partner with more crypto projects, continue to bring business into crypto. This will be our core focus over the next year. We'll continue to do this, and we'll never stop at it. For us, we're in it for the long haul, and we'll just keep building. That's what we do.
Awesome. All right. With that, was there any shout outs that you guys wanted to give at the end? Any upcoming events, community organization that you want to shout out? before we wrap up and start deciding who the best question winners are?
I would just say is join us on Discord, as well as we're actually going to be launching our Telegram and Reddit community. So if you guys want to go ahead and join us and add us there, we'll be posting an announcement on that information today. But we have a lot of things in the coming weeks. Hopefully we'll have some more information on Little Orbit very soon, as well as a promo that we might be doing. So stay tuned for more information on that, but thank you so much for having us. I love the energy of this AMA, and there were some great questions asked for you guys. So we really appreciate your time. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I'll be getting the video up as soon as possible. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it would be after the fact. Thank you for watching. As always, this has been a presentation of the Wolves of Wall Street. My name is Nexus. Our guests were TerrorZone, Drake, and Dermonte, the representatives of 100 Days Ventures, who I started out describing as venture capitalists, but I think more aptly can be described as angel investors. That being said, everything that you heard is not to be construed as financial advice. These folks are here to educate people about their project and spread the word about what they have planned in the future. Thank you guys as always for joining us, and now we will get moving to the post-show segment, which occurs off live stream. And as always, I will be inviting the team from 100 Days, should they so choose, to pick 3 of our 5 winners, which is a harder task than it sounds, folks. All right.
That is a